Welcome to the Crazy Cool Family Podcast with Don and Suzanne Manning. Parents, what if we could give you the power to transform your family into something absolutely amazing?
A family where everyone is healthy, gets along, loves Jesus, and has great purpose in life.
Hey, let us flip your thinking to unlock the power God has given you to create your own Crazy Cool family. Okay, we are continuing on our Family Culture Made Simple podcast series. We have been working on this for many weeks and really encourage you to go back and listen to the 4 pillars of culture. Get to know them. If you really want to go over and above, get into Base Camp and listen to the videos for the culture pillars.
They could actually watch the videos.
Oh, that's true.
I mean, you can listen to them too, but definitely watch them.
Yeah. And remember the 4 pillars: encouragement, what's the next one? Safe haven.
Yeah.
I had to think about it for a minute. Relational discipline. And we're talking about unity. This last week we started unity. Go back and listen. Let's do the definition first so we can talk about it. Family unity is celebrating family uniqueness as we unite under family values.
Yeah, we just kind of talked about unity and how it's next level thinking, that we get encouragement, we get, discipline, we get listening with Safe Haven, we get all that, but unity is kind of one of those next level things. It's something that as families we might not even think to do. And so it's so valuable and important to do that. And then within what we talked about with unity last week, we also talked about celebrating differences with our kids and seeing our kids basically through different eyes, not through the eyes of, I want my kid to be like me or the same as me or my spouse to be the same as me, but I want my child to be who God designed them to be, and discovering that and then inspiring that.
Yep.
And so that was last week's podcast. And then this week, we're so excited because we are going to talk about family values and how with that family uniqueness, we get to unite under these family values. And so talk to us. Don is all about the values. I mean, that is his sweet spot, I would say.
Yeah, I love that. What is value, first of all? A value is something that's important to you. It's just something that becomes, and so first of all, for example, for example, one of my values in life is to work hard. My dad worked hard. I got that from him. So that's a value in my life. I always want to make sure that I'm putting forth my best effort. Well, how does a value translate into the house? Well, for example, one of our values is we want everyone in our family to love Jesus. That's a value. It becomes something that is important and something that then we pursue in our home.
And so I think that the word values to me is one of those big, lofty words. And so anytime I run across a big, lofty word, then I want to define it, bring it down. I want the synonyms. And so I looked up some synonyms to kind of bring values down, and their beliefs. It's just simply beliefs or ethics or morals, or super simple, just standards. It's our conduct. Maybe it's character. And so if you're thinking, wait a minute, what are values? What is it that I value? It's the character that you want in your kids. It's how you want them to conduct themselves. It's morals, values, ethics. And so now that we've thrown more words out there, hopefully you'll get, I get values. Okay, good. Now, how does it apply to family?
And think about it. So we talk about unity, family unity. We worked hard on this definition for a long time because it's hard to define really, but it's kind of something you see, but it's hard to define. But we said it's celebrating family uniqueness as you unite under family values. Well, how do you remember we said that last week, we said in celebrating family uniqueness that we are celebrating the uniqueness of everyone. That means everybody's different. How do you get them going on the same lines? How do you get them together? Well, you do it by uniting, not under everyone being the same, but you do it by uniting under values.
Values. So there is a place where you get to have but it's not within their personalities and their character qualities.
Yeah, but let's say, for example, that we said the value is we want everyone to love Jesus. Well, Molly's going to love Jesus. Her relationship with God is going to look different than Madeline's relationship with God, which is going to look different than Macy's relationship with God. There's going to be some similarities to it, but it's not going to be the same. And so but the value is something that we unite under. So
values are like places that we all agree on as a family. And so it's like we're all on the same page. And so we have those things in common. And when we have those things in common, then that's where we get to build unity.
Yeah, and I want to make sure that that parents leave this with the values can really be anything. For example, we think, they have to be about Jesus.
It could be that we all love macaroni and cheese.
Yeah, exactly. Or, some dads, or dads and moms, I shouldn't just say dads. That's so stereotypical. But I mean, love hunting, for example, and they unite around going hunting in the fall.
We're a hunting family.
Yeah.
I mean, we are not actually. The Mannings are not, but people would say we're a hunting family. Yes.
Yeah. Or like one of the things we do is we play basketball in our family. And so basketball was a bonding thing. And what these values do. And so here's what I want you to hear today. Pick your values and go for them. So often parents just the vision for their family is unclear. And so therefore it just drifts and there's nothing. But really what happens is you can pick certain things and unite under them, and it creates a bonding. You're purposely creating a bonding in your family. Like, so for example, all my kids have played basketball. And so I coached them all in basketball. So we have family basketball games now. It just continues on. Another one may be, for example, one of our values in our family is we have conversations. And so Suzanne really introduced that into our home. And so now our kids have conversations with each other, and we have conversations with them. That's a value we have in our family.
Yeah, and so a super simple one is going to church. I mean, that was very valuable and important to us. And I can't tell you how many times that we were running out the door late because one child didn't have their shoes. We would get to bed on Sunday morning or Saturday night. We would lay all their clothes out. I mean, we had a somewhat of a system down to get to church. And for us, it was valuable. We served in church, and then our kids served in church. And so that was one of those things that was valuable to us.
Another just silly one, not silly, but it's important, but it's not as important as going to church, I guess, but is birthdays. So we would celebrate birthdays. Suzanne had a job in high school and college, so working at a place where she made cakes and wedding cakes, and so she can do amazing things with cakes. And so, and she just
funny side note though, none of my children like cake, and so we had to get super creative. But I love that you brought that up because one of our values is celebrating each other.
Yeah.
And so whenever it was time to plan a birthday party, then everybody would plan and everybody would have a role. I remember one year Michael had a Spider-Man birthday party, and Dawn dressed up as Green Lantern and ran around and chased the kids. And somebody else put a spider web all on the stairs, so the kids had to crawl under it. And somebody else was in charge of the pinata outside, and somebody else was in charge of. And so it was
that's the value of having 7 kids.
Yes, exactly. That's true. And so that was we just celebrated together and worked together. If there was a project, we worked really hard to get a project where we would all, Dawn would drag us all out to do yard work or something, and maybe whining and complaining,
or we all cleaned up the house. We had a value that we wanted our things like.
I would say if we all work together for 10 minutes, then we'll get the job done in an hour.
Yeah, and so you might think about, well, how do I come up with my values? What does that happen? And made us think about as we did this podcast. How did we decide what our family values are? And what would you say to that?
Well, yeah, so some of them evolved. It just happened. I mean, I would say that I don't know that we started out valuing basketball, but basketball became something that we very much valued, and we still play it today.
Well, I'll tell you how basketball came out. It's because I didn't want to play dollhouse anymore.
Right.
And we've got to get these girls into some sport.
It was hysterical to see Don putting clothes on Barbies, his big fat fingers.
Yes.
But yeah, so some things evolved for sure. And then, but some were decided on, like like believing in Jesus. I mean, I remember growing up as a little girl wanting a big family, and I wanted all my kids to love Jesus. I mean, and so that was definitely a value.
Well, and for example, we talked about, being involved in the local church. It was both about that we decided together that was something we were going to commit to. And what that meant is that we didn't do other things. See, one of the things about defining values is it tells you what you're going to put in the lane and what you're going to leave out. Because, we were a sports family and a church family. I mean, and so those are the things. And so when sports came up, we did those. And when church came up, we did those. And we would serve. And if something was going on in the church, we would, work to be there versus, maybe other organizations or whatever, we didn't do as much because church was our priority.
Well, yeah. I mean, and I would even say that it came as a cost because early in our marriage, we had a lake house at Possum Kingdom Lake, and it got in the way of our church commitments and then our sports commitments. And so we sold it. I mean, because it wasn't in
line with our family values.
We valued, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And some we stole. So
yeah, I was gonna say, we definitely took some from other families. I remember having families over and loving even their kids' dynamics with each other and the relationship that they had with their kids. And I would say that's where the conversations came from. The idea of conversations, because I remember the mom saying, because she had little bitty kids and teenage kids, and I said, "How in the world do you bridge the gap?" And she goes, "Oh, we talk a lot. I have conversations, and I include my little kids and the big kids and the big kids and the little kids, and so I'm constantly connecting them, And so I just remember thinking, I'm taking that. I'm going to make sure that my younger kids go to my big kids events, and my big kids go to my little kids events.
And related to that, one of our values that then came out, it's huge in our parenting curriculum for you, is we wanted our kids to be best friends.
Right.
And so we pursued heavily those relationships because it was a value. We learned it at a seminar one time, and I remember talking about it, going, this is something we're going to put into our home. And so, basically what it comes down to is that some evolve. Some are decided upon, and some you can take from it. And we absolutely, look at other families and say, what do I want out of that family? You don't know what I tell people to do all the time is don't be like the Mannings. Don't try to copy everything someone does, but you take little bits and pieces and you go, wow, I really like that. I want to see that in my family now. And it, just like we talked about last week, that becomes, you want to build your marriage. Talking about values are great conversations for your marriage, which build trust. Yeah. They build energy into your family because now, guess what? You're not drifting apart. You're working towards a common goal. And I can't remember whether we said this in this one or the last one, Suzanne, but that was one of the things that we did well. I think it was last podcast because we were talking about how different we are.
Right.
And yet we did have a lot of agreement on, even though we're very different personalities, we had a lot of agreement on where we wanted our family to go.
For sure.
And so that built trust in our marriage, even though some things didn't build trust as we were looking at the personality issues and you said our preferences were different and things like that. We could build our marriage on where we were going with our family, and that helped build trust in our marriage relationship as well.
Yeah, I mean, and so invite your kids into that too. I mean, what is it that we talked, last week about them being unique, and so maybe some of their uniqueness and their differences that might even dictate or define your values. Like if your child is musical, we've got a family in our church, and she leads worship, he leads worship, so that's valuable to them. And now they're training all their kids to sing and to play an instrument, play music or whatever. But their daughter ran track. Well, the mom didn't run track. Their mom played volleyball. I mean, and so and played the violin. And so the daughter's now running track, and now the siblings are all running track. And so while they did the value of doing music as their parents, they're also doing something completely different. So allow your kids to set some of
that's really good.
The things, your values as well.
And so how do you decide what values are in your home? Well, like we said, talk about it. I mean, a great exercise for you to do is, just here's some questions for you. What are some things you value in your family? And Suzanne, lofty word, let's just replace it with, what are some things that you want to be important in your family?
Yeah. And then, I mean, I would even start with what are things that you see that already are important. I mean, so not even dreaming about what could be, but what do you see already is? And the best way to, bring that down is, where are you spending your time?
Yeah.
What are you,
or
what
your
are
money.
You, yeah. Oh, and your money. Exactly. So what do you do after school? What do you do on the weekends? And so that's going to be what you value.
And some of those are going to be, there can be negative values. And so, like, for example, Suzanne and I, we had a lot of discussions over the value of sports in our home. And sometimes, at times, that value was positive, and at times it was a super stressor. And so we talked about adjusting that value and how, because, it's not just the value itself, but it's how you implement it as well. So those are discussions too, or it may be that there's some negative, for example, maybe it's a discussion of, oh my goodness, everybody wants my kid to play baseball select when they're 7 years old.
Yeah.
I think we've got caught up in this, but maybe that's a value. Maybe that's keeping us from other values that we want to do. Again, whatever your kid does in
Well, there's one that I was thinking of is, I remember one of the kids wanted to do gymnastics. I can't remember. It might have been Madeline when she was little. And I just remember thinking, I don't want to get on the gymnastics train because they require your kids to be gone from your home in the evening for several hours. And to me, family time, family dinner, being interacting with each other as a family was more important than that child getting her skill in gymnastics.
For our family. I think, another way to do that is, okay, does Madeline really want to do gymnastics? Why? Is she really, thinking about, is this a passion of hers, or is it just a passing thought? And so that can dictate, so for some families, they do gymnastics and they love it, and it's a big part of their family. And
it's their value, and they all are there to support. Yeah. And yes.
And so those are some of the decisions that you're going through. And so, what are some of the values in your home, and even what are some of the negative ones? And, really just, I think first having a discussion with your spouse is really good,
yes.
But it can also blend into the family and say, hey, what's important to you guys? What do you want to do? It's a great way to connect with your kids.
Yeah. And so with that, we just challenge you to have a family night, order some pizza, make their favorite meal, whatever that is, and sit down and write down what are your families? What's your family doing? Where are they spending their time and money? And then what are some values that you might want to do? Maybe, maybe some kid says, I really want to be a snow skiing family, and you've never done that before. And so maybe it's like, okay, we'll
Get
try
ready to
that.
Spend some money.
Maybe we don't want that to be a value, but we want to try it and see.
We can afford that on Daddy's next job.
And then make a poster of those things that you value and hang it on the refrigerator or on the, somewhere. Yeah. I mean, so in our house, we have a picture that's above our fireplace that says, the Mannings, love conversation. We love a good time. We love the Lord. And so it defines who we are and what our values are. And now Molly and Madeline both have those same things. The Torreses, I can't remember what the Torreses are, but Madeline's are. The Jones love to have a dance party in the kitchen. We love disc golf. And so just maybe have some fun with it and think about the things that think about the things that you value, the things that you're good at, the things that you have fun doing, and put those on your list and maybe turn it into a piece of art.
And just like last week, have we advertised last week's podcast enough yet? But just like last week, I will say the same thing. Doing unity is fun.
Yeah.
It is figuring out it. Unity is kind of about vision. It's about vision for your kids. It's about vision for your values of your family. It's about where you're going and what you're doing, how you're partnering with God with it. And so we encourage you to do that. And now I'm gonna plug next week's podcast, which is going to be kind of wrapping it all up under a concept we call the family name. And you will not want to miss that one either. But today, what we want you to do, remember your homework, talk about it with your spouse, and then introduce it to your family and just have a fun night with it. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
No, go be crazy.
Yep, and go be unified crazy. Go pursue unity, pursue the discovery and the inspiration of unity. Go be crazy parents, crazycoolfamily.com.